What up, guys? Welcome to the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. Today we have world champion Jiu-Jitsu black belt, a multiple time world. He's no gi world champ and a gi world champion, Roosevelt Sousa. So I met this guy. He sent me a message last year, and then we ended up meeting each other at No Gi Worlds last year, and we kind of talked for a few minutes. And then when we're thinking about guests, I'm like, oh, we need to have this guy on there. He's got a fantastic story, right? As we'll talk about it later on. And so I wanted to have him on the podcast to talk about it. And I was watching a couple of videos, and his English is pretty good. He definitely has the Brazilian accent, but English is good. And I was like, all right, let's get him on, right? Because he's got a lot of different takes, and I really think his story about his training leading up to the Worlds is really interesting, because it kind of goes against what everybody thinks they need to do to win a big tournament. But at the same time, it's something I've experienced, because not that it's the same thing, but I remember when I did trials, similar situation to that, not quite as bad, because obviously I was still training and stuff, but not nearly as bad, but still to some degree, completely underprepared, and just went out there and performed incredibly well. So it's an interesting thing to chew on, but he has a lot of good insights into his mindset. And, I think the mindset stuff's really important, because the mindset a lot of times is what leads to you actually taking action and doing the thing, versus more how-to specifics. And so anyway, we're going to get into this podcast. Hopefully you guys enjoy it and get something from Roosevelt. And a big thanks for you guys for being here. And big thanks to our sponsors for helping make this podcast happen. Charlotte's Web CBD. You can check them out at charlottesweb.com. The promo code is Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. They have a ton of amazing products. They're one of the OGs in the CBD space. And they also have other products such as CBN, which can be really useful for sleep, and other things like functional mushroom products like reishi, lion's mane, which can do a number of different benefits to help with everything from stress management to brain and cognitive function. A lot of stuff, balms, rubs. I mean, just their product line is huge. And so if you guys have never tried any of their products and you would like to, go to their website at charlesweb.com, look around, see what you find, see what's interesting to you. And you can use the promo code Chewjitsu30 for 30% off the order. I would tell you that for me, CBD tends to fall into my sort of recovery nighttime routine type of thing, where, I'll use it before nighttime if I'm having any issues sleeping, and it tends to help support my sleep cycles and, get better rest, so I can get better training in the rest of the day. Also, guys, thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. If you guys have never checked out Epic Roll, they've got a lot of amazing gear and merch for jiu-jitsu. Again, I get all of my gym stuff made through them, like my rash guards and shorts, my jiu-jitsu gear. I like the quality of it. The customer service is great. If you guys own gyms, or if you run a gym or run a program, if you want some really solid quality stuff, great designs, and again, customer service that, for me, it's good. I really like the customer service, and I'm a sucker for good customer service, right? My buddy Matt over at Epic Roll, they do a terrific job over there of getting my guys good stuff. And again, you guys good stuff, because a lot of you guys buy it. And if you guys want to check that out, you can go to their website at epicrollbjj.com. If you find something you want to buy, you can use the promo code Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. And if you guys want to contact them, there's a contact form there, or you can shoot them a message on Instagram at epicroll if you're a gym owner and want to get information on their pricing and products. Also, guys, if you guys want to support the podcast directly, you can do so by rolling on over to our Patreon at patreon.com. Inside the Patreon, we have everything from warm-up and stretching routines specific to jiu-jitsu, narrated rolling and breakdowns of rolls and matches. We have podcast extras from the guests and from me and Eugene, and a whole lot more, plus a bunch of other perks. If you guys want to get more details, go to the website, patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And when you join up, for a very inexpensive price, you'll be supporting the podcast, and you'll be getting some extra stuff coming your way. Also, guys, if you want to get my daily email and become a member of the Chew Crew, become a Chew Crew subscriber, you can do so by going to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. And when you join up, you'll get the email, which goes into anything and everything that I think might be useful to you, and any sort of random tangents that I want to share with you about books I'm reading, or training ideas that I find useful, whatever it might be. And on top of that, I will send you a free video and ebook that goes into focused training. So we touch on this subject multiple times in this podcast. if you guys have read that ebook, if you've watched the video that comes with it, you will hear me sort of like talking about that in a sort of a roundabout way in this podcast, because you'll hear him talk about it. It's what he does, and it's something that you hear that the best people do when they train. They're focused about it. It's how they get the most from their training. And in his case, he's in some cases rolling with lower belts and still winning world championships. That's pretty cool, right? So if you guys want to get details on that, you can go to my website at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN, and get details for it. Now let's jump into this podcast with Roosevelt. But yeah, bro. So like after, it's like seeing you in Worlds and stuff, I remember digging into, because I remember you posted a picture of you with the water bottles and stuff.
Yes.
And I was like, oh man, I gotta like dig into this a little bit. Cause a lot of times when you see someone win Worlds, you just sort of just think, oh, this is some, guy from Brazil who's probably been doing this since he was in diapers. And then looking at your story, you really haven't as long compared to some of the other guys. You started relatively late.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. Tell me about how you got started in jiu-jitsu.
Well, I started Jiu-Jitsu when I was 21. Before Jiu-Jitsu, uh, I used to play volleyball,
Mm-hmm.
beach volleyball. And I had a friend that was a volleyball player, professional volleyball player, and he liked it. He was obsessed with martial arts. He was a purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu. And one day after training, for some reason, he started to play takedowns with me. And I don't know how. I did something that, like, I don't know if I took him down or I did something. I took his back, whatever. But it was very instinctive, And like he got obsessed with that, and it's like, you gotta try jujitsu, you gotta try jujitsu, you have to do this. And like back then, I didn't know anything about martial arts.
Mm.
Nothing, zero. Like I didn't know about jiu-jitsu, I didn't know about UFC, boxing, anything. And I was like kind of hesitant. I was like, dude, this is not for me. I like volleyball, I don't like this thing of like hugging another guy on the floor. This is kind of weird. But somehow he convinced me. And funny fact, it was around my birthday, right? And we went there. I was like, okay, let's go. Let's just hanging out on the mats. And I remember walking in the mat and I saw those like Master 5 brown belt, black belts, like a little overweight. And I look at them, I was like, those guys not gonna beat me. Those guys not gonna even touch me, dude. I thought I was like in shape, whatever. Man, 1 hour later, I was like destroyed. I couldn't, I was so sore. I was so exhausted. I was like, man, this is so embarrassed. I need to learn this. That's how I start my jiu-jitsu journey, and since that, so that day definitely changed my life. Like I felt so vulnerable. Like when everybody has a funny history of when they start training jiu-jitsu, and that was that sense of like a fear or urgency. Like I need to learn this to defend myself at least. You know, that's how I started.
Well, I feel like you had a similar situation that I did, which was when I wrestled first and I got into jiu-jitsu. And when I got in there, there were several guys, like little tiny guys in there. And I'm looking at them, I'm thinking, I'm just going to like manhandle these fellas. And they tied me up in a pretzel, choked me left and right. And I mean, just beat the crap out of me. And so for you, you were probably a young athletic guy playing volleyball, all that stuff. And then, like you said, you came in and you saw these sort of older overweight dudes and you're like, okay, whatever, and then they tie you up, so you're like, oh, this is, if this old guy can do this, and this is the way I looked at it, is if this little dude can do this, he can do this magic trick on me. What happens if I learn it? I got to learn this stuff. So I, that was the selling point for me, was that some dude could just manhandle me and I couldn't do anything about it, even if I was bigger and stronger and everything else than them.
Exactly, man. And like I got lucky too because I was around good people, like my first professor, he's a very smart guy. His name is Yuri Alves. Today he is national team coach in Saudi Arabia. So they have jiu-jitsu there they take very serious. So I was able to like be coach, like I had like such a good coach around me, and like even start old, um, I was being very coachable, like, and also have a good coach on my side, like helping me, and like he had this crazy idea, like since the beginning of like, oh, you got, you got, you gotta do this serious, man. You have potential. I don't know why he saw me, but I was like, man, this guy's crazy. Like, it's like you have potential. You can be a world champion one day, and he always say that, and I was like, man, I don't know. I did, I just started, like what this guy is talking about.
Mm.
I wasn't even thinking about competing, and but like Brazil, like most of us Brazilians, we come from Brazil, and like we come here to US to try to change our lives, through a lot of hard work, and we try to find our path, opportunities, and that's how I got here, and like I believe like what actually made me start and get to where I am today, it was just the struggle that I had in Brazil, and like that was that was like I can say two things that actually pushed me through, my coach being like good coach and the struggle.
What kind of things did you struggle with in Brazil that you feel like, were really helpful? I mean, to your work ethic and just your determination.
Man, I was born in a house that I had my mom, my dad, a sister, and like my mom, my mom, that my dad, like they come from poor background and they didn't have a lot of education, and all they knew how to do is just work hard to provide at least food for me, for my sister, like, and I'm very grateful for that, and like, but to be able to do sports and anything like that, for example, I had to walk all the way to the gym to train. I didn't have even money to pay my ticket for bus or anything. I had to walk like 1 hour every day and 1 hour back. And I was so happy for that, because I was like, dude, I'm doing something cool, I'm learning something, because like we, when I didn't have even like a bed to sleep on the floor, I slept on the floor, and all that just made me who like more. I got just all these struggle I got and transform it on motivation, like,
Mhm.
and that was like my gas, my bus every day, and I felt like Jiu-Jitsu gave me this sense of uh, future, I know I just saw that through Jiu-Jitsu a path that could change all of that, all my reality in that moment. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. How did volleyball kind of help you out? Like, you kind of were at a higher level, you played at a higher level. Like, how did that transition, being able to achieve a high level in another sport, how did that transition help you, to being, you said coachable and some of these other things to kind of excel in jujitsu early?
Okay. Yeah. So um, I'm a tall guy. I'm a 6'4", and I'm considered like in Brazil. I'm considered a tall guy. And I always like play, play soccer in the street. I was always outside with my friends play soccer. But then like Um, a lot of those friends start getting in trouble,
Mm.
selling drugs, like going to jail. And then my mom got very scared. She said, like, I don't want you to end up like them. You better find a job or found something to do, but I don't want you outside anymore. And I was like, dude, I love to play. I need, I was being super competitive. That's something natural. And then like I heard a friend said that if you wanna play soccer or any other sport, you gotta go to this place, and the government like has this facility where you can go there and train for free. And I was like, it was super far from everything was far from my house.
Mhm.
And then I went there and I was like, I saw those guys play volleyball, and like I was like, dude, but I don't know. I sit on the court, and I started watching those guys, and I started seeing those tall guys hitting the ball super hard, and I was like, I want to try it, and that's how it happened. I walk in, I saw this guy play. Oh, that's what I want. And then like a few years later, I was like, getting better. I never been like a talent guy, but I've been that type of guy that once I start something, I try to give my best to become the best, like, and that took me to beach volleyball, where I tried to almost become professional player, But in Brazil, like, it's very hard because if you don't have a sponsor, if you don't have a uh, parents, family to support you, it's very hard to become a world level athlete. And it's crazy because when I was like between like this moment of becoming pro or just stop playing because I didn't have the money, that's when my friend told me, "Oh, let's go try jiu-jitsu," you know. And one thing that I think that was like the most important thing that happened that time on this transition was like when I was training volleyball, I was able to see like high level Olympic athletes training every day. And I kind of learned their mindset, like what they do, because like I didn't have a like parents or anyone in my family that was an athlete. I never heard about training. I learned that with just watching people. So I got very blessed to have a chance to be in a place that I had a world level athletes, Olympic athletes, and I was seeing those guys. For example, I saw this guy. He was like 6 feet, less than 6 feet tall. He's not considered a tall guy, but he knew it and he was trying to become very good. So when it rains on the beach, it's that wind a lot. It's a horrible conditions to train. So nobody trains. But this guy was there, and I saw him training many times when nobody trained. I saw him like running more than everybody. And I kind of got the mindset and I brought to Jiu-Jitsu. And I relate a lot of my achievements and my success in jiu-jitsu to that like mindset that I learned in volleyball.
Mm. With your jiu-jitsu training, is there an example of that? Like, have you ever have you ever found yourself doing something in a certain way, whether that's like training on a certain day or going about your training in a certain way or a mindset when you're competing that you can look back on and say, I got that from being around some of these Olympics? Is there any, or these Olympians and these pro volleyball
Yeah.
players? Is there any particular example of that that you have, like a story?
Yes. When I first on my beginning, like white belt, blue belt, purple belt, there I was training like 4 times a day,
Hmm.
because I got my. That's why I mentioned my professor, because like when I got my blue belt and I lost my dad. I was kind of, like I become the man of the house, and I was like, oh my God, I cannot. It's not fair for with my mom if I just go train and I don't have a help at home. I gotta find a job to take care of my sister, whatever. And then like I was about to quit, and then he told me, no, come to the gym. You're gonna help me with the classes. I'm gonna give you some money. You can help your family. So when I did that, man, I was in the gym like all day. So I was training all day. I was like doing beginners class. I was helping him with the kids class. So I remember once when I was getting ready for Brazilian nationals, I was training so hard that I remember like I had training in the morning, 10 a.m., 12, and that was evening class. And I had to go for the evening class because that was in another gym, and that gym had like more challenge opponents to train. And I was like, my professor, well, you gotta go there because you gotta challenge yourself. And then I remember that, when you do those king of the match specific training, when the person sits on the mat and play guard, whatever, and you
Yes.
waiting at the line. And so I remember I was on the line and I was like falling asleep, like he's standing, like hanging on the wall. Like I was so tired, and like that was one of the things, like, and I was like, another reason that I always like try to push myself a lot and was just because I was like on my head that I started late and everybody that I'm competing against, they start training since like they were young.
Hmm.
So I don't have time to waste. So I gotta train as much as I can. I have to be better. I have to learn as much as I can. And like to looking back, I don't know how I did that, how I trained so much. I don't train as much today as a black belt because I feel like as you get older, you get more mature, you understand, you do things in the in a proper way. But like being like old was always something that like it made me uncomfortable and like some make me like work more,
Sure.
and compete as much as I could.
So what you said, you were kind of like, obviously back in the day, you're younger and you have a little more time on your hands. You're just training all the time. And then you mentioned how, now you're older, more mature, you have a better idea how to get more out of your training, right? So you train less overall time, but I imagine that time that you're training is a little bit more intense or a little bit more focused. So with the way that you train right now, what do you do to get the most out of it? What kind of things do you do to get the most from your training to get ready for your competitions or to improve?
Um, Honestly, I feel like now as a black belt, that I, I truly feel like I'm learning jujitsu. I'm understanding jujitsu now, you
Hmm.
know. And my match against Gordon Ryan in at ADCC in 2022
Hmm.
at the same finals that I got heel hooked super quick was actually is the fastest submission ever in ACC,
Mm.
and I got very pissed, you
Yeah.
know, and that definitely changed my mindset in jiu-jitsu. After that, I feel like I become a new person in training, like out because for that competition, I was just like training to get better at my wrestling, get better physically, and try to be in a good cardio. I was showing up every day and try to beat everybody. And I realized that man, jiu-jitsu has changed so much. There's no more room for that type of mindset. And I realized that, and I was like, I don't want to be just one more. I want to be one of the best of my division. What I had to do, like, and I realized that I had to train different, like that's because I realized that like I wasn't studying enough. I was just doing whatever everybody else was doing in the gym.
Hmm.
And I started to study a lot, like started to pay attention what the biggest names on my division were doing differently, especially the guys that were constantly winning. And and like in a year, I noticed a big difference on my game already. For example, now when I go training, I already know what I have to do, regardless whatever the coach is telling us to go into training. I don't go just there to waste energy or waste my time. I try to make my time worthy, and I try to record my training to see. I watch my fights and I see what I need to work on, and especially because like obviously we're never gonna be 100% satisfied because jiu-jitsu it's like a constantly improvement, constantly motion, and but I like today I walk in the room and I try to work something specific. Sometimes, for example, before I was so scared to get on bar. Like I was so scared. I was like, man, somebody get my arm. And like I didn't even try to defend. I was like somebody stayed my arm. I was like tapping already. And now my head was like, this is wrong, dude. I see a lot of people defending the arm bar. Why I'm not learning that? Like, and I started putting myself in arm bars and trying to defend. Start with like younger guys, lighter guys, and then got more confident. And this is just an example of the whole aspect of my training in general for every single technique that I need to work on. So that's pretty much what I'm doing right now.
I got you. So one of the big things that you do right now is instead of just going into the gym and trying to win all the rounds and beat people, you're focused on something specific that you want to work on. And even if that means putting yourself in like a bad position where someone might armbar you or choke you or whatever, but if that's where you feel like you need to work on, you're going to do that.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes. And honestly, that has to do more with the your mindset than actual technique or training, because there are so many things involved, like I've been working with my coach now. I have a coach, his name is Danny. He's a sports psychologist and also he's a doctor. So he's a very smart guy and he has all the how can I say, he has all these structures of training and he explains me and then he gets just like he helps me organize my mind for training and competition, and for example, if you get cut in a situation like a heel hook, for example, the first thing that a lot of people do, what happened with a lot of people, like most of the time, they get panic and they start to that's when they get caught. They
Yeah.
try to pull the leg. So I've been working a lot with the how to control my emotions during
Hmm.
training. Like because me myself, like for example, if I do around with Cyborg, for example, the gym, and was planning to do something and didn't go on my way, and let's say I got smashed it for him, and I was like so frustrated with myself, and like I have like 1 minute and a half to get back to like a recover for the next round, for example, and I'm still on my mind. So he told me like, good, you need to empty your mind. So I we do like this box breathing, the
Yeah.
breath work to
Hmm.
kind of empty your mind, and you start giving yourself positive affirmations. For example, you at least you try, or let's go for the next one and try something else, because it looks so simple for a lot of people, but for me it was like a breakthrough,
Hmm.
and like I've been doing this for over like 4 months, and I went to Pon Arms No Gi right now, and I was like thinking about each grip, like each of each second of the match, like whatever I had to do, and that kept myself focused, So it's just an example,
Hmm.
like because sometimes we walk in the training and competition and we think about the final result, and that actually, when you start to get lost in the mat and if things don't go the way you plan it, you get frustrated, and then you get stuck in your mat in your head and you lose your focus. And for me,
Yeah.
this is a very important thing right now. Is stay focused on the mat.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's something I came to that kind of conclusion myself, and it's been beneficial to me. And we've talked to several, 80cc champs, world champs, whatever, and everybody kind of has their own way of explaining it and how they come to it. But basically, like, a lot of people get really focused on being at the top of the podium, having the gold medal and the whole deal, right? Which is what we all want, of course. But if you get too focused on that, you forget about what you actually have to do, which is focus on
Right.
using your techniques, playing your game against another person. And in a lot of cases, at least for me, I remember when I was younger and I would focus on winning versus like, actually fighting the match.
Yeah.
I remember I would get really like hesitant to do anything because I was afraid of losing. Because in my mind, I'm like, I'm winning this thing. And then if I make a mistake, I'm going to lose. And it was when I got rid of that and was like, I haven't won anything. I've got to fight this guy. This other guy's trying to like, we got to go. And that ability to zone in on the moment, to really have the desire to win, but at the same time, not being afraid to lose because you're focused on the fight versus the win and the loss, that's something that's helped me out a lot. I know that it's helped out a lot of other people. Am I following you as your mindset, or is it a little
Yeah.
different than what I'm explaining?
Yeah, and I have a perfect example for that. Like
Okay.
I hated to watch myself fighting most of the times.
Mm,
And I was like, there's something wrong. Why I don't like to see myself fighting? I don't like to first because I was I wasn't performing like I perform at the gym. I was doing things just to try to win the match, and was kind of like a instinctive, was nothing planned, you know,
yeah.
because I got so stuck with that mindset of like, I gotta win, I can't lose, I can't lose, I can't lose. and that made me like not perform the way I wish. And like I was like, man, I don't like to watch myself. And when somebody, my students come to me, oh, professor, last time I was watching all your match, and I was, oh my God, and like, and I was like, so like another thing that I learned is like how to criticize your own thoughts. Like
Hmm.
you're just not accept because we have those random negative thoughts that like you're not good enough or whatever.
Yeah.
And I try to I've been working that on like Chris, like why I'm thinking like this about myself. And like I've been like try to be more smart about it, and I for me like just like you said, fighting, right? And I have to remind myself all the time, I'm here to fight, because like when you focus on fighting, like and like that's something so obvious. Like yeah, of course we're going there to fight, but if your mind, your emotions, your focus is not on fighting, and you think about the medals, and like dude, even when you win, you feel like yeah, I won, but you're not fully satisfied,
Yeah.
and I've been there many times, like I looked to the medal and I was like, dude, this is I worked so hard for this, like and like become something like not so important, like and I was like, dude, that's not right, that's not right. That I need to work on this.
Hmm.
Do you think you started with this mindset? It was a more focus on what you're doing, like your performance? Because I was kind of looking at your wins and just your matches, and you have about like a 70% submission rate, finish rate in your matches, in your wins. Do you think that's kind of gotten better since your mindset changed? You're more focused on, I'm going to work on these type of movements, these type of positions, or kind of playing your game and not really focused about, just the result.
To be honest with you, all this percentage of submission when I was just try to winning. If you see the percentage is just like straight ankle locks, like submission that I go and try to finish as quick as possible, And I would say that I was very not, how can I say that, not mature enough on my jiu-jitsu, on my mindset, but I start changing this mindset after Worlds were this year in beginning of the year, right? So I was going through a hard time, my personal life was like going through a lot, nothing crazy, but for me it was very hard to handle, especially with my career. And I was like I was like not happy with jiu-jitsu anymore because I was like, man, what's the point? Like
Hmm.
I wasn't winning like I wish. I wasn't performing like at home in the gym. And then like we were remember we were like about to. I did release the announce for. I received a mail from IBJJF saying like, oh, last 2 weeks for registration at Worlds, and I was like, dude, I don't want to go fight. I don't want to go fight. But then like, something clicked on my head, and I was like, what I'm doing? Dude, like, like few years ago, I had to sell water bottles at the street just to try to come here to compete. Word, I wasn't even trying to win. I was just trying to be here. You know, like I got here without English, without friends, without family. I didn't know what to expect. I just heard people saying that you're gonna go to US because you can make a career there. We have world championship. If you win, it's always that like win, become a world champion, your life's gonna change. And I came here and now I'm just like, oh, I don't want to compete because my life's too hard. And like right away, I something clicked it, and I was like, dude, I'm so grateful. I'm gonna go there, man. I gotta go, and I want to go there, and I want to look to that place, and I want to feel like happy about being there, grateful about being there, because that like I represent so many people in Brazil. There's a lot of people they cannot even come to US. You know, we have visa barrier because it's not everybody that can have a visa. It's not everybody that has a lot money enough. And there's a lot of talent people there. They cannot come here. And I was like, at that moment, I felt my heart super grateful just to be there. You know, I bought my ticket, signed up, and I went there. I was like, dude, I just want to fight. You know, and let me tell you, like every single fight, like was like I was just present. I felt myself present, and I started winning one, and then won another one, and then I won another one, and I made to the same final. And I like when I made to the same final, I was like, okay, I gonna win that shit. I literally thought that like I just need to keep that mindset. That's when I got it. I was like, I don't need, I wasn't even thinking about the medal. I was like, I need to win the match. I just need to fight. I just need to keep doing what I'm doing. And like, that definitely changed the whole year, through the year, like, has been amazing, because I feel like that was something that definitely clicked, and I believe like I'm a faith man. I'm a man of faith, and I believe that was God that like somehow sent a message to me, and I feel like when I changed my mindset of being grateful, just to be there, definitely um, remind myself why I'm doing this, you know.
Yeah. With your world's competition, so you said like 2 weeks before you got the notification that registration was closing soon. Were you were you in the best shape for that particular competition, or was it kind of one of those things where you're in pretty good shape because obviously you're training all the time, but a lot of times if we know a big competition comes up, we might put together a 6 to 8 week camp. Was this something where you're in pretty good shape and you just said screw it, let's just go fight and see what happens?
It's funny you asking that. No, I wasn't even training.
Oh
I
wow.
had I have I fought with Cyborg. We were not talking. I had left my team Fight Sports, and I was trying to figure out like become business owner for the first time. Like, and everything was going bad. I didn't have a time to train. I was just like teaching a few white belts and blue belts, and whenever I could, I was doing a little bit of training with them. You know, I wasn't training, man.
Wow.
Honestly, I wasn't training and like at all.
So
I
then when
was
you
doing a
so then when you signed up, did you like get together with some training partners, or did you just write it out and say, well, I guess I'm training with these white belts and blue belts and let's see what happens? Like, what did you do to get ready for it?
so when I signed up, I started training every day with my white belts and blue belts. And once a week, I was going to a friend gym, and he was the only black belt there. He was like me and him only, like doing specific trainings, work a little bit like of situations, and that's it, like nothing crazy. And it's crazy you asking that, that makes me thinking through it, you
Mm.
know.
Well, that's wild. So, okay, so this is interesting, because well, no, it's interesting because I remember like when I first took over my gym years ago when my instructor left, I was a young black belt and all I had to train with was white and blue belts, and you have to train differently to get something out of that, right? And I think it's useful, but for you, okay, so you're training with these whites and blue belts and stuff. how do you how do you train with them to get something out of it so that you can get ready to compete on one of the highest stages of jiu-jitsu and go out there and have one of your best performances 2 weeks later?
Man, I was just like, okay, since when I put my name on the registration, I understood that I knew it. I wasn't ready physically,
Hmm.
but I didn't let that affect me for some reason. I didn't let that kind of made me feel insecure or anything like that. I was just like, I was so grateful because I
Hmm.
was going there. I was so excited about being there that I was trying to just like show up every day in the gym and training with my students, like nothing specific, honestly, obviously a black belt training with a white belt has to be something very, specific. I like to, I let them attack arm bars, back takes, and I was just focused on escaping. And
Mhm.
like on my head, I was timing, like for example, oh, I gotta finish him in 1 minute. I
Mhm.
gotta try some specific situations, but nothing crazy, honestly. It just I was just thinking like I gotta train every day. That's what I was focused on. You know, I had no goal to be in shape or nothing like that. I was just like, I need to show up every day, train with my student every day till till the day of the tournament, and that's it.
It's kind of no pressure, right? You had no pressure on yourself. You had a complete different perspective. More of like, I don't have to. I get to. I'm fortunate enough to get to compete and do this thing, and it's kind of like not really. It's sort of freedom, right?
Man, I remember like when I was a brown belt, I used to compete a lot, And I remember I was in Brazil and I was training a lot, doing a lot of condition training. I was selling water bottles. I was doing everything to raise money to go to Abu Dhabi to fight the World Pro because I want to get the money and give to my mom to to fix our house, to buy some stuff for our house, to pay for some bills, to have money for food, all that, And I was so stuck with this on my head that man, and I was very in a very good shape. I was like training very well, and I lost in the first match for a guy that I always beat him.
Mm.
And I lost because I got tired. I was so stuck with the mindset that I show up to fight and I couldn't fight. I was just like he won. I lost by one advantage, but I was so exhausted. I couldn't fight, and like that's just an example that when you're I was super ready to fight and I was already thinking on the final result and like and remember like in World Pro, I don't know if you guys know that for Brazilians you have to do a bracket just to get into the main bracket. So you fight against all the Brazilians, and only two Brazilians are allowed to fight in the main bracket. And you fight
Mm.
against guys from Russia, from other countries. So I lost in the first fight of the Brazilian bracket, and I
Mm.
was so disappointed because I had to work so hard to raise money and train all that. That was one of the things that I can like compare with this mindset right now, and like those things are interesting, and for me like okay, I won world championship and that was cool, fun, but for me the most important, is the breakthrough, like the breakthrough that happens. And w- I'm 32 right now. I feel like as I get older, I understand more things on my life, I understand more myself, and I finally accept and I actually understand my place in the world, and who I am in jiu-jitsu, because bef- sometimes you feel like you're in some place, but you're not even there yet. You have to work way more. So what I try to do is just be honest with myself, and that word title made me see the real perspective of myself, and right now, I know that, for example, for this, I have a fight right now coming up in 2 weeks in Brazil, BJJ Stars. I'm gonna fight Pedro Marinho for that bout, and I know exactly what I have to work on for this fight. I don't need to train like 3, 4 times a day for this match. It's gonna. So I'm trying to be smart. You know,
Mm.
I work very well when I don't put pressure on myself that I have to do this. I have to train a certain way. That's one thing, right? And I'm trying, and I see the progress every day on my mindset, on my confidence, on my training, how I'm learning, how I'm developing every day. And that's all about it, and I'm very grateful for that, you know.
Well, in a lot of cases, when you, I feel like, you can tell me what you think about this. I'm sure, like, you won the world championships, right? You get this gold medal that you probably dreamed about having since you were a younger fella. You're holding it and looking at it, and then it's kind of, it's exciting for a bit, and then it's kind of almost empty. Like you're like, well, what now?
Yeah.
Because and like you said, the most important part is about the person you become in order to win that thing, the breakthrough, right? So, it's not about the gold medal necessarily. It's about you becoming the kind of person that can win the gold medal. That's really important because now you can take that person with the new mindset, with all that, everything else, and then you can take them and do all sorts of other things, right? And you can go to more competitions, win more matches, and build your name and everything else. Um, but there's that moment, I don't know, where you get the gold medal, you get the big prize you've been after, and then I don't know, it's just all right, well, on to something else now, I guess.
I think this is, if you feel this way, there is no reason for you to be doing what you're doing, you know. You gotta feel you gotta understand why you're doing this, you know, and it has to be very clear.
Hmm.
When I won the award this year, I was like, I had a lot of people around me, a lot of people. I know they were not doing this intentionally, but they were like, "Yeah, now everything's gonna change. You world champion," you know. And I was trying to don't let that affect me
Yeah.
because I knew it, and I was around world champions all day training, and I know that don't change your life, you know.
Right.
But I started to kind of let those people like, and what they were saying me all the time, like somehow I was like feel like, man, like, and I like 1 2 months go by, I still like, I didn't have any sponsorship knocking my door,
Yeah.
or no fights coming, or no nothing, no money coming to me. And I was like, I kind of started getting a little frustrated, but then like I was like, wait, I'm not doing this for that, you know.
Hmm.
I feel like, and I stopped for a second, I thought a little bit, and started remember everything that I went through before Worlds, and I was like, yeah, that's it. That's exactly why I'm doing this, because I'm fighting for myself. You know,
Hmm.
I'm fighting to become a better man. You know, because I have a wife. You know, I have a family. I have my students, you know, and what type of champion I want to be, you know, what, because I feel like there's a spotlight on my head,
Yeah.
and when you have that spotlight, that's when you show what you do with that word title, you know,
Hmm.
and for me, it was just like a big change, and like life is hard, man, and like for everybody, you know, and I think the way that I handle everything through the tournament and after that, that makes me proud, you know. That makes me proud. And that I never felt that like that before. I
Hmm.
was always expecting the overcoming, okay, what now? What next? What now? What, you know? And for because I came from a poor background, Brazil, and I was always like chasing money, chasing a better life, chasing this, and like for some reason I still sometimes feel a little bit of that, but now I know how to deal with that, you know,
Hmm.
because everything else, like, because this is the most important, you know, how do like be proud of yourself, see your evolution as a man, as an athlete, you know, see like that you went through a lot, and then even though you made it, you know, that's for me is the most important, you know. Everything else is gonna come, money is gonna come, opportunity will come, you know, but you don't have to like just focus on that, you know. And the personal improvement, the personal um, change for me was like, the biggest thing is of it all, like above the title. The title is great. I'm very grateful for that. Don't get me wrong. You know, it's amazing. You
Sure.
know, like I can inspire my little kids, students, and like it actually makes me be very careful how I say things, what I tell my students. I don't want to be, I don't want to be. a bad example. I want to be a good role model for them,
Yeah.
and that's all about it. Like honestly, and like and when I understood that, like for real, like now I have opportunity to fight. Everything started coming because your energy, your attitude is different.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's how I see it.
I feel like anytime I've won like a medal or something like that, or like win something, I feel like, especially at this point, I get them and I'm like, they're cool. But like you said, it's more of a test to myself. I enjoy competing. I enjoy the fight of it. Win or lose, whatever happens, happens. But my students, they get more excited than I do. You know what I mean? So if I win something, they're super stoked. They'll post about it. They'll share videos on the internet, whatever. If I win, it's like, all right, here's I'll take my picture, whatever, and then it'll go up on the wall of the gym, and that's about the end of it, right? Like I
Yeah.
just enjoy the actual act of like, let me see what kind of art I can do out there on the mats, right? Let me see what my game actually looks like when you put it to the test.
Exactly.
So I imagine for you, probably your students every time you win now, they're going to be super stoked and they'll be excited. And like you said, for you, it's more about the internal stuff that's going on.
Yeah, and like being a professor has changed my life so many ways, man. Like this past weekend, we were on local Naga. I
Yeah,
never been at Naga before, Like I was like, such a small tournament, Like, but my students were all excited and they were like so nervous about being there, competing for the first time. And man, we start we started like 9 a.m. We
yeah,
finished like 6 p.m.
okay,
We had like families going there with their kids, putting the chairs, bringing coolers, and they were there just to see their teammates fighting.
yeah,
And I was like, man, I can't wait for my students to finish fighting to get out of here. I'm so hungry.
yeah,
But then like I saw the families they were hanging out there. I was like, what I'm thinking, dude. Look, those people, they are so excited. And like somehow they taught me something, like and I think that has something to do what you just said. Like for us, because we've been doing this for some time, we think like, we always want more. We never, we are so hard with ourselves sometimes.
hmm,
But like for normal, like, normal people, our students, they have a jobs, regular jobs, their family. Dude, they love it. They like and like this is amazing, like, and I was there and like we had such a good time, and the end of the day I didn't want to leave. I just want to stay there for my students, the kids playing around, and like such a simple moment, and like I want more of that, because um that's why I said like I have to be very careful what I do, my attitudes after winning or losing, because that's gonna happen. Like, and I have to get a lesson from everything that happened, and
hmm.
I want to be the best role model, the best example as possible for those people,
How do you kind of, with now being a coach, being a world champion, being a husband, having a family, how do you kind of balance everything? How do you still get the most out of everything? Like your training, for example, like how do you make sure that you're at your best in the gym? And what does even that training look like? Since you can't spend as much time and you've gotten older, you got to be smarter about your training.
dude. Honestly, I'm living the best moment of my life. I'm very grateful. And sometimes you have a crazy day. You gotta teach. You gotta do this. You gotta take care of this, take care of that. A lot of stuff to do, And then sometimes you show up to teach a class, and at the end of the day, you're tired, and you're like, oh man, I'm tired, and you can't show up tired for a class. You gotta, man, people are there for you, and you gotta
Hmm.
be excited about it, and being grateful, because I know there's a lot of people out there, they're doing something that they hate just because of money. You know, I know there's people suffering in Brazil, there's people suffering everywhere, and I'm doing something that I love, and I have a beautiful family that just made me feel grateful and blessed to do what I do, and every time we have our moments, and I try to, I snap and say something, but then few seconds later, I already, okay, sorry, say that. I'm on my head, and I
Yeah.
should not say that. I gotta think that too. I'm actually very blessed, man. If I'm tired, suck it in and just go there and have a good time.
With your with you coming to America, I'm curious. I always like to, because we've talked to several, people here on the podcast who came from other countries. Eugene, moved here when you were, how old were you?
6 years old.
6 years old. So
Yeah.
like coming to America, what does that mean for you? Like, what is America? I'm just curious about this. This is kind of like off the topic of jiu-jitsu. Like when you think about the United States coming here from Brazil, um, what does that mean to you? Like the idea of America, like what does that mean to you as a person who's moved here? Like when you thought about America when you were a kid or when you got to move here for the first time, like that all mean to you?
That's a very good question, man.
And if you don't have a good answer, we don't have to answer. I'm just curious, right? Because
Yeah, no,
you're
no,
you're
it's a
coming
very good
here
question.
and yeah.
Like my name, Roosevelt. My mom, she wasn't like didn't go to school. She didn't know who Roosevelt really was.
Mhm.
But I believe like that was like something like related to prophecy. Like she was kind of prophecy on my life. That one day I was going to move here somehow.
Mhm.
And I remember like my mom always took me to church when I was a kid, and I remember we have this family, and the mom she lived here, and her kid in Brazil, and he used to go to the same church, and we were always playing together, and he always like had those school shoes, cool shirts, like Nike shirts. We don't have it that in Brazil, and I was like, man, that's cool. And he told me, and I was saying, oh, my mom brought to me, and I was like, oh, dude, that's cool. And I was like, start like kind of dreaming with that, like maybe I can go to US one day. But that was like way before jiu-jitsu, way before volleyball. But like honestly, I never like dream it with that. Like
Mhm.
I was like maybe I go one day, but it wasn't something that I planned. And I feel like I like to say that I'm living my adult life here. I got here when I was 25, but I didn't know anything about life. And I don't know yet. I'm still learning, of course.
Sure. Yeah,
But
yeah.
like, um, I feel like I'm just feel grateful to be here, because um, I feel like we here people have such a different a work ethic, and in Brazil we work so hard, but it's so complicated, and I don't want to get into that because that goes like about politicians and all of that. But
Sure.
like the mindset that I learned here, the work ethic, is something that I never had the opportunity to go to school in Brazil, like I did college, all of that, but it's so poor that the experience that I have learned on this last few years for life, is something like priceless.
Mm.
Do you think just maybe the opportunity, just having the ability to like you see openings, see opportunities for success and to better your life?
Of
Would you say
course,
that's
man.
fair?
Yeah, and Jiu-Jitsu, like provides that, gives you amazing networking. I don't know if I would ever be able to meet a doctor or a lawyer. My wife is a lawyer today, like, and like I'm learning things that like I would never imagine that I would learn or talk about. Even speaking English. I taught myself English. When I first moved here, I didn't know how to say anything. And then like I need a job, and like Cyber told me, okay, I'm gonna find you a job. You gotta teach this class. But then like I told him like I don't speak English. Okay, you want a job or not? And then I draw like a dome on the paper, and I start arm. I put on the name on the side, arm, head,
Okay.
and then start learning. And then when I got that first vocabulary, I started putting like on the pieces of the gi, the collar, the sleeve, and
Okay.
then you know. I went over and over, started learning, getting more confident. Still learning, like my accent is not the best, but I know that it's a process. And this is amazing, and for me, that's more like work it done, go to a school and get a diploma. That's how I see it. This is my
Hmm.
school, and
Hmm.
like definitely, Jiu-Jitsu open up a lot of doors here. I don't know if I would be here in a different scenario, doing something different, it would be amazing like that. But it's been amazing for sure.
Yeah. You get to do what you enjoy, right? You get to spend time doing something you love and something you're really good at. And I think that's a gift, right? And that maybe not
Absolutely.
something, it's maybe not something you could have done. I'd like for me, I never imagined I could be doing a podcast, or I get to train for fun, spend a lot of time
You got
training,
your own
have my,
physical therapy business.
yeah, and I'm a physical therapist. So I have like clients that come see me, and a lot of them train jujitsu, so I,
That's
I work
amazing.
with, it's amazing. I don't know if I'll be able to do
Where are
that.
you from, if you don't mind me
I'm from
asking?
Russia. So I was born in Russia. Now it's Belarus, but we
Nice.
came in 1989 is when my family came.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Amazing, man.
There's a cool picture. It pops up every now and again on like my brother had posted on Facebook of me and my brother coming to the United States. They did a news article locally, and they took this picture of us in the airport meeting my grandfather for the first time, who had moved here before we did. It's a pretty cool
That's
picture.
so
I've
cool.
shown it. Yeah, I was like 6 years old. It just, I don't know. And you see so much that's changed, right? I see that picture and people that were there and aren't here anymore, because it's a long time ago. But
Yeah, that's so cool, man.
you,
And
you,
like,
yeah,
I feel like I don't know if you had that, but like, um, move here, you always had the feeling and that drive of like, I gotta make it, I gotta make it, I can't rest, I gotta make it. Like,
hmm,
y- and I feel like because of that, you see now you have your business, and that's so cool, like,
yeah,
and here we found the opportunities, if your mind open, if you want to really change your life, there's no way you're not gonna make it here, man. If you like, that was one thing that I first learned when I moved here. Like, a business guy, they told me, like, a student from the school, they told me, like, dude, everything here happen if you put effort and you have and time on it. So
Yeah.
it's gonna happen. Nobody never told me that in Brazil. So Brazil was just like survive mode, survive mode,
Hmm.
survive mode. You don't you don't get off that box. So
Hmm.
here you see, okay, now I can do this, but okay, if I don't want this anymore, I can do something else.
yeah.
You know?
It's a great perspective. Like I got to see my parents go through that again, not able to speak the language, needing work, and they were educated in Russia, but here the education doesn't quite transfer. It's like you have to have certain other certifications. And so I saw that through them. I saw them kind of not be able to speak the language and literally
Yeah.
just like try to find work
And
and save.
raise kids.
Yeah, raise two kids. I remember my mom tried to go to college to get a degree, and she couldn't really speak the language. And I was young. I was like 6 years old. My brother was 10. So it was tough. It's tough to do that. But I see that a lot too. Like, like Chewy, for example, he came from, you grew up here, but you had not the best environment to grow up in. You had a
Sure.
lot of,
We were first world poor, right? So
yeah,
like we were poor by American standards, right? But we had food and everything else,
sure.
but we weren't exactly doing great. Yeah.
But the thing is like you can either see your environment and kind of be like, well, it's just what I'm destined to be, is this person that's in the, or I can make something different. I can learn from see what it was, and I can make something better. And I have the opportunity to do so. And I think,
Well, I got lucky. I found like because we're doing jujitsu. Jujitsu used to be on the other end of town,
yeah,
so I would, I lived on the poor side of town, and then would go across town to train jujitsu because I wanted to fight. And I met a business owner there named Al, and that dude was like, he was like, for some reason we struck up a friendship, and he owned all this real estate, he owned all these businesses, and then I remember talking to him, and he like would show me stuff, and would show me how he started a business and so forth. And he grew up poor. And I remember he showed me that stuff, and it was like, oh, like these business owners, they're real. They're like real people. And you could watch what they did, and you could watch the people that they were being. And it's kind of like we do in jiu-jitsu, like you were talking about the Olympians that you watch in volleyball. Being around people, they don't have to even show you anything. Just being around
Exactly.
them, you get to like watch them and see how they do things and see their habits and their mindset, listen to them speak. And you're like, oh, okay, like this is how you do it, right? And I learned
Yeah.
so much from just being around them. And it was like a door unlocked in my brain
Yeah.
because now all of a sudden, like, new part of town, new perspective on life, different opportunities could be present to you if you did certain habits and different things.
I have a student, and he's from Morocco, and
Hmm.
he moved here very young too. And he's a CEO of a company today, and and I kind of have this had the same thing with him. And I asked him questions about life, business, and dude, like he's so simple, He's just like sometimes I remember when I first met him, like 2, 3 years ago, and I was like, dude, like why this guy even like spend time with me? Like he's like it's like he's rich. He's like he's way smarter than me. He's super smart. Like he thinks ahead. How he has the patience just to talk to me? But he's like he likes to he likes to challenge himself and learn new stuff all the time. But then like, dude, he teaching so many things, and like it's just like you said, like, and this thing you said, like, about, like, oh, he's just a normal person, so simple, And
Hmm.
he started from scratch, and he told me how he started his business and how he started so small, and then like he started growing and doing something stuff, different stuff, and like that's why that's why we are very blessed to have jiu-jitsu, like because uh and those people treat us with a respect, and that's so cool because they come to learn from us something, you know, and we're very lucky to have them to learn from them,
Yeah.
especially about for me, like something that I'm trying to get better at right now is how to communicate, like
Mhm.
how to talk, how to express myself. And that's one thing that I pay attention on him when he talks, the way that he treats people. One thing that he told me, like, you gotta be custom service. You gotta be custom service. He keep repeating that. Like, and he's like, every time he point to people, he's like, oh, this guy's a good custom service person, you know?
Hmm.
And I was like, that stick to my head, and that's a very, it's very interesting,
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys run a bit. I mean, if you're a coach, you run a business. I mean, it's and there's a lot of aspects. Not everybody. It's a good, like a great jujitsu, you know, practitioner is
Yeah.
going to be a great business owner.
Well, and like jujitsu gyms, almost in some ways, they remind me of kind of like the church that I went to when I was younger, right? Where you would have all these different people coming together, and different walks of life, different sort of jobs, everything else, but they had a shared common sort of thing that they all came here for, right? And in jujitsu, it's the same way where like I learn all kinds of stuff from my students,
Yeah.
because they all have different things. Like I mean, like Eugene's fixed me up several times, and help me like avoid serious injuries. We've got a guy at the gym who was a lawyer, so if I needed legal help, that was the guy. So you
Nice.
have all these people that pull together, and so again, like we all have everybody has their little space where they've developed some skills or knowledge, and then now you have this community of people who feel connected and they trust each other, and so we can all use each other. Like in the last year, my in the middle of winter, my furnace started going down on me. One of our guys owns a HVAC company. Boom, they were out there to fix it that day, no problem, right? So it's like this beautiful thing where we're all sort of helping each other, and
Yeah,
it's a
that's
big
awesome.
community, so it's super
Nice.
cool.
That's
Yeah.
amazing. That's amazing, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
Rosal, I have a quick question. I'm interested. This was something you mentioned very early on in the podcast, and you kind of said that when you started jujitsu, your coach saw something in you. Going back to it, you said you weren't sure what it was. Is that something? Do you think, if you think about it, is there something that maybe you look for in your students? Maybe you saw that could make them successful in jujitsu, or something that when someone comes in and they're trying jujitsu and you see a student, uh, first class or first month of training, is like, oh, I see something special in them. Is there something you look for?
great question. Like, if honestly, I feel like I don't looking for something special, honestly, I want those people that you look to them and you feel like, dude, this guy he's gonna need a lot of attention. You know,
Mhm.
that's the people that I like. I like to change people lives. You know, like I like to work with autistic people. I like to work with shy people, overweight people, people that are insecure about themselves, people that suffer bullying. I want to work with those people. You know, because if the guy is already athletic, he's gonna get it. It's easy for him. You know, he's gonna train it. You know, the guy that like did wrestling before, he's gonna get it. It's natural. It's normal. But like to convince like 80 years old to train jiu-jitsu for the first time is very challenge. You know, to make somebody that doesn't look like to touch sweat to train jiu-jitsu, fall in love with jiu-jitsu and do your first competition. This is something special. You know, and that's what I want to do for people. You know, like, because. Um, Man, I'm a competitor, you know, like I'm always around the best in the world, but like Jiu-Jitsu is way beyond than that. So it's something that like I like to say that, man, that it's like I think like the world, you know, like we get stuck with us like our phones, and we are now we have people with suffering a lot with like mental issues, like you know, like they
Yeah.
have a lot of anxiety.
Hmm.
And man, the jiu-jitsu can definitely help with that, you know, because it's not only the sport, but the environment, you know, the challenge environment, the problem solve situation, you know, and the community, you know, the welcoming, you know, like that all of that. And for me, this is this is all about it. That's why I'm a coach, you know, because as a coach also, I'm treating myself, I'm taking care of myself too, you know, because I see like people, different people every day, and I was like, dude, that's nice. I'm learning something, even from my kids, you know, like I see that and I like, man, I just love what I do, and I want everybody to come in, you know, and I want those people that nobody want to work with. I want to work with them, you know, because for me, this is that actually makes the journey exciting, you know.
That's
Challenge of it, yeah.
that's cool, man. And I'm sure, obviously I know your gym's I believe your gym's been open sort of like a relatively short period of time, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. So, probably in the next decade when the gym's been open for a long time, you'll go through the same thing that a lot of us have experienced where, some guy comes in and trains and then, you know, their life completely changes and, they come up to you and tell you some really profound and impactful stuff. It's a cool experience. I feel like that's like the best part. Like when someone says, I've been asked before, like, hey, what's the best part or what's your favorite moments in jiu-jitsu? It's like, it's not really me getting my hand raised. It's like watching my guys get their hand raised, or like one of my students has like he has a big gym down in Tennessee now. And, or like some of these kids that I've watched become grown men on the mats and you see them turning into like good men, good adults. Like those are such cool stories. So I imagine, it seems like your head's in that place. I'm sure you're going to have a lot of cool experiences with impacting people in the years to come.
Oh, definitely, man. Of course, I don't have not even half the experience you have in jiu-jitsu. I was another day watching a video of you teaching triangle escape, and a very old video, like I think from 2011.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Like
Yeah,
you've
that's
been
a long
teaching
time
like
ago.
for a long time. I was like, dude, that's crazy. That's amazing.
Oh,
And like
man.
being here talking to you, you know, it's amazing. You know, like uh, I'm very grateful.
Well, it's a
You know,
pleasure, brother. I was glad. I was happy to have you on. Like I said, I remember meeting you last year. And I was like, man, why haven't we had him on? It would be a fun story. Plus, you have such a unique story. A lot of times, like I said, people just wrongly sort of assume that, oh man, it's just this guy started training when he was 5 years old in jiu-jitsu, and then he just smashed everybody, won the world championships, and it was anything but that. It was like you said, having to start off to sell water to get to the US and
yeah.
help along the way from different people, and then just coming back to it. It's awesome. So it was a pleasure to have you on, brother.
Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. And for me, like speaking and about my journey, you know, and somehow if I can at least inspire at least one person, I'll be more than happy, you know, and be here in this platform, in your channel, in your podcast. I'm sure like we're gonna reach a lot of people.
For
Thank
sure.
you for the opportunity, guys.
Thanks. Roosevelt, where can people reach out to you if they want to train with you or kind of see what you're up to? Where can they do that?
You can reach out to me through my Instagram, Roosevelt BJJ. So just hit me up and we can train together. We can do a seminar, whatever you guys want. I'm here
Okay.
for it.
And where's your gym located?
It's here in Miami, in Doral, Miami, Florida.
Okay.
So just hit me up. It's called Sanctum Jiu-Jitsu.
Very cool, man. Thank you
Okay.
for your time. Congratulations with all the success. And
Good luck at the BJJ
Yeah.
Stars coming up.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the podcast with Roosevelt Sousa. That was a fun one. Such a cool story. You know, I always just you can't help but admire someone who's, you know, given a deck that's a few cards short, and they make the best of it, right? And what did I hear? You know what I mean? It's like it's not about the hand you're dealt, but how you play it.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? It just really is that. You know, it's the way that you look at things, the way that you go about them, and then the opportunities you're given, just making the most with them. You know, a lot of times, like, you know, we're all handed some opportunity somewhere, and again, some people have maybe a different maximum trajectory. You know,
Yeah.
but when you take it, you just take it and run with it, you know, opposed to being frozen with fear, not taking the risk or whatever. Because you got to think, man, taking a risk, like coming to the United States with nothing, no real from you got probably some people you have acquaintances with, but no real family,
Yeah.
you know, no real support system. And you come here after you're selling water, you know, like, I mean, that's
To hold bottles of water.
it's pretty impressive,
Yeah.
dude.
To make money. I think he did have some help. Obviously, like some people helped him out when he got
Yeah,
here.
of
But
course.
like that's like that entrepreneurship, that kind of not even just that
You're just hungry
that
for
effort,
something.
that
You're
hunger.
just hungry for something, man.
Exactly.
You know, I think that's the difference. You know, and I always admire that when we talk to some of the guys on the podcast who came from other countries, you know, we joke about it, it's that immigrant mentality, right? It's they view that the United States is like this chance. And so they're like, I got to make the most of it, versus many of us who are born here sometimes can take it for granted. Like, you were born here. You got this handed into your lap. You didn't have to do anything for it.
Sometimes that can be a disadvantage, though. You know, that not having that perspective, not having that just different view. Like I think when you come from not a lot, and a lot of people have, you know, are born in terrible situations in the States.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong; it's a challenge for them as well to
Oh,
get
of
out
course.
of that situation.
Right.
And we're not saying that's not the case, but like having that contrast in just grow up one way and then you see opportunities for another. Same thing for you. You grew up a certain way and then you met some people along the way that opened your eyes to some different situations. I think it's super important.
Yeah.
And I think you have to be willing to believe that there is better opportunity there for you, not feel like you're just kind of stuck in the same cycle that you've kind of been in. So I think when you have that contrast and you work real hard and you see that it's accessible to you, there is a chance. Like I think that's the big difference.
Yeah, you know, and that's the thing I really bugs me about like our current sort of societal focus, right? Is that you think about all around you in this country, you know, if you're an American, but all around the world, of course. But you know, as an American, you know, all around us are people doing amazing things, people defying the odds, doing amazing stuff, right? And you know, you'll have some people who say, well, that's an anomaly. Right. Oh, you know, that's the person that got lucky. But to me, it's not an anomaly, it's a formula. Right. Because so it's like, because you see so many people who keep doing the same damn things and you find sort of commonalities and traits. And to me, it's like, and I know why we don't, but to me, I'm thinking like, why don't we celebrate these people? Right. So instead of always posting like the negative stuff, the stuff that because it's like a car wreck and everybody's going to watch it. Right. It gets views and clicks, right. Without thinking about the sort of the impact on the society around you. It's like, why don't we focus on these people and show like all these different people from all these different shapes, colors, walks of lives, everything else, and look what they did, right? Because there's a really cool story. There's a book called Devotion, and in the book, it's about the first Black Navy fighter pilot who completed aviation school, right? And in that, I may have told the story before, but it's a really good story. In that story, he gets done with like naval school, right? And part of how he got to like naval school was that a bunch of white Navy officers that were in this, or Army and Navy officers, these guys were working at this, were at a restaurant that he was working at. They did a collection because they heard he was trying to go to school. They did a collection and paid for like his tuition for a year.
Awesome.
It was like, that's super cool, right? In you know, even in a, you know, world that at the time was still segregated and, you know, tons of racism that was openly done. So then he gets in there and he goes back home after completing naval, the aviation school, and he borrows a plane and he's taking these kids up around flying, right?
Uh-huh.
Like these neighborhood kids, because when he was a kid, people told him, "Oh, you can't," because he said he wanted to fly a plane when he was a kid. And they were like, "Oh, you're not going to fly a plane.
Mhm.
You can't do that," right? So then he takes these kids up, and in one case, he took these 3 boys up in the plane. 2 of them went on, like all 3 of them went into the service, military service, but 2 of them became pilots.
That's awesome.
You're like, that's pretty cool, right? Because what had happened? He said, "Hey, I look like you. I'm from the same place as you. And guess what? It's possible."
Right.
And so then they believe, oh, it can be possible, because their mindset just shifted where they thought, oh man, now I can actually do this. And so I think that's a super cool story. And I wish as a society we did more of that, because there's so many cool ass stories going on around us that it's just, it reminds you of what's possible, and what can be done. And it's I find it a more resourceful place rather than, woe is me, let's tear at each other and that sort of thing. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. Just sharing that cool story with you. It's a good book, but they made a movie out of it, and the movie's pretty good, but the book's way better. Because there's just so many more details that you can add into a book that you can't get into. And the book's an easy read. The chapters are relatively short and snappy. So even if you're not like the biggest reader, I mean, it's a cool story. But anyway, appreciate you guys for being here. Big thanks to our sponsor, Charlotte's Web CBD. Again, if you guys have never checked them out, they're one of the OGs in the CBD space. And if you get on their website, find something you like, and you want to save 30%, use the promo code Chewjitsu30, CHEWJITSU30, to save 30% off the order at charlottesweb.com. You can check out our longtime sponsor, Epic Roll. They make amazing jiu-jitsu gear and merch, t-shirts, shorts, rash guards, anything and everything you could want jiu-jitsu wise. They make it. Great designs, great customer service. EpicRollBJJ.com, and the promo code is Chewjitsu20 for 20% off the order. Also, if you guys are gym owners or you're coaches and you want to get some really cool gear made for your guys, I go through them to make my gym gear, and they do a terrific job of it, making good premium quality stuff that my students want to wear. And that's easy to sell, because again, as you as a gym owner, you don't want to have a bunch of stuff that nobody wants. And so they can help you out with that. If you guys want to check them out, you can either message them on Instagram at Epic Roll, or you can shoot them a message from their website when you find their email in their contact us area. Also, guys, if you want to support the podcast directly, you can roll on over to the Patreon at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast, where we have a bunch of different perks. But, the back end of it is a content library that has everything from warm-up videos to narrated breakdowns of rolls and training sessions and competition matches, to specific seminars that I've recorded, and a lot more with all of our guests and podcast episodes. And if you guys want to get access to it and all the perks, you can check that out at patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And last but not least, guys, if you want to get my daily email that I send out when you become a Chew Crew subscriber, you can do so by joining up for free at chewjitsu.net/join, JOIN. And when you join up, you'll get access to the daily email that I send out, which if you like the podcast, you'll like that. And then also I will give you access to a free video and ebook that goes into ideas on how to train with more focus. We talked to him several times on the podcast today. And if you listened multiple times, he's talking about this idea of training with intention, not just going into the gym, but making sure you know what you're focused on. And the ebook will give you 12 different strategies, and the video will do the same in case you're not a reader. We'll give you 12 different ways to do that, and it could make a big difference in your game. And if you guys want to get it for free, go to my website, Chewjitsu, CHEWJITSU.net/join, JOIN. So guys, with that said, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate you. Hope you're doing well. Hope your training's going well. And if you guys want to contact us directly, you can do so by shooting us a message over on the Instagram for the Chewjitsu podcast, or you can roll on over to our email and send one at the Chewjitsu podcast at gmail.com if you don't have Instagram or social media. So guys, thank you so much. We'll talk to you next time.